James chapter 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything.
We're shooting church announcements. Otto's over here. Tia's over here. All of our notes are over here. All right, are you ready?
On the card and hand it off to your neighbor by sticking it on your doormat.
Hey Life Point students, I hope that you are doing well. It has been way too long since we have all been here in this building meeting for youth group, but I hope that these videos have been an encouragement to you. My goal today is to really just jump into our next sermon series. We were supposed to start this in April and it was supposed to go until May and into June, but obviously things have been kind of just thrown into disarray and we've had to take some detours lately, but I thought what better time than now to just go ahead and get started. So we're going to be getting into the book of James. And really quick, let me just kind of give you the SparkNotes edition of what James is about. Many theologians have said that James is kind of like the book of Proverbs with New Testament clothes on it. And what that means is that it's a lot of wisdom type literature. If you open up the book of Proverbs, you're going to find all this really good common sense advice on how to live and how to walk in the ways of God. And James is kind of just like a revamped version of that through the lens of Christ. The summary for the whole book of James is kind of this idea of faith put to action. And that's really refreshing for me because I don't know about you, but I really struggle with the idea of people who talk the talk of Christianity but don't walk the walk. If there's one thing that's been very detrimental to our faith over the last many years, it's people that say that they're Christians but their lifestyle and their words and the way that they act completely opposes Christianity, and therefore we get this title of hypocrite. And it should be our desire as a community of believers to try to erase that, right? That we're not going to be hypocrites, we're going to be genuine, sincere, authentic Christians. So let's read this, starting in verse 2 really quick. It says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." This word testing has a lot of cool connotations in the Greek, and I think James used it very purposefully because it has this meaning of working with metal, specifically the idea of smelting. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I wasn't super familiar with it until a few years ago. But smelting is when you take a metal ore that has all these impurities in it and all these different types of metals that aren't great or are just, gross, I guess. And you put it in this high pressurized, very hot cauldron or whatever, and you heat it up to an extreme amount. And in that extreme heat and in that extreme pressure, all the impurities just begin to disintegrate and go away, and you are left with this extremely pure, precious metal. And I don't think that James was just throwing a word out flippantly. I think that he was trying to say listen, the testing of our faith, when we're put in situations that are high pressure spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, when we're in pressurized situations like that, let's go through them joyfully. Let's go through them as people that know that God, you're going to help us gain perseverance to the point that all that's left when the impurities burn away, the insecurities burn away, all that's left is something that's holy before you. And so James is telling us, listen, trials are great for pushing us into the presence of God. They're great at kind of the turbocharging of our Christian life. Now that seems very counterintuitive, and it was to a lot of people in James's day. James is writing to a group of people that are surrounded by pagan religions, and they have this belief that's very much like karma, where it's hey, if you scratch the gods' backs, they're going to scratch yours, or if you put good into the universe, good will return to you. And what James is saying is hey, you could be the best Christian ever, but listen, trials are still going to happen. He wasn't being pessimistic, he was being realistic. There's things in this world that are going to happen that are out of your control, and you have to go through those things with joy. The first thing we have to realize is that when James is talking about trials, it's not a matter of if they happen, it's when, right? Trials are going to happen. We're going to go through hardships in life. And this mindset that James is asking us to have is very, very problematic for even our modern society, right? Where we're very consumeristic and we're told if you're not happy, if you're not healthy, and if you're not wealthy, life isn't good. You need to reevaluate your life. Something must be wrong. So now we have to try to look beyond our own culture, right? And we have to decide, what, are we going to allow our attitudes and our spirits to be dictated by our current, situation, right, that surrounds us? Or are we going to look beyond that and raise our perspective up and say, God, the things of this earth, I'm not going to let them dictate my attitude or my spirit or where I'm at in my relationship with you. Instead, I'm going to focus on you. And with that kind of comes the second idea, which is this: we need to prepare ourselves to be armored up, not bubble wrapped. I watched a movie when I was a kid all the time called Little Giants that was all about this football team of just ragtag kids trying to take on the jocks in town that were like the really good team. But there's this one scene in particular that reminds me of all of what we're talking about today. There's this kid that's kind of painted to be like the geek of the crew, and he's never played a sport in his life, and his mom wants him to get out and get physical activity, so she's going to sign him up for this group of ragtag players. And when she drops off her son, he gets out of the car to walk into practice, and he's wrapped in like mattress foam and duct tape. He looks kind of like the Michelin Man. It's awesome. Bless her heart. She just thought, I'm preparing him for the world, right? I'm preparing him for the practice. Like, this is the best thing he could possibly wear to play football in. And he gets to the other boys. They start picking on him. They push him around, and eventually he gets pushed into the goalpost and falls over, and he's knocked out. And, she thought she was preparing him for football, but really all she was doing was giving him a false sense of security, because that actually didn't help him out. I think as pastors and me as a parent and just as Christians in general, we kind of have like this overzealous sense that we have to protect, and that we have to make sure that you guys' lives are super safe. And to an extent, absolutely, that is our responsibility. But there's also this need for us to armor up, because what we do is we create in you this false sense of security, life is going to be peachy, it's going to be awesome, it's always going to be going easy. But the reality is that's just not the case, that there's going to be trials. And so we have to do two things at the same time. One, we want to protect you for the things that could harm you in this world. But two, we have to armor you up to know that this world is broken and there's hardships that we're going to go through. And we want to prepare you for those things so that you don't kind of have your earth shattered or your world shattered when those things come up. And so, number one, we want to know that trials are going to happen, not if, it's a matter of when. And number two is that we want to not just bubble wrap, instead we're going to armor up and prepare ourselves to be ready to go through these trials. Guys, I love you and I miss you. Before I end today, I just want to let you know that we're having another Zoom meeting this Thursday at 5:30, and I hope that you join us. It was super fun last week. We played some games and Rihanna kicked all of our butts. Join us this week and try to beat Rihanna, because that's really what we're all are focused on. And so I hope that you join us on the Zoom call. It's super fun. And so yeah, I hope to see you guys very, very soon. If you ever need anything, if you need prayer, or if you need encouragement, reach out, because I would love to just pray with you, talk to you, check in with you, hear how you're doing. Find out what TV shows you're binge watching, whatever it may be. Let's talk, let's stay in communication with each other. And until then, I will see you guys later. Bye.